Hafaday Guam, Filiang Guerrero here in the rolling hills of Menangan, and we are brewing up another episode of Coffee with the Candidates right here at the Amica Lobby Lounge in the Leo Palace Resort. Stay tuned, we got incumbent senators Brett McCready and Marissa Underwood letting you know more about them leading up to the November general election. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates. Filiang Guerrero here at the Amica Lobby Lounge at the Leo Palace Resorts with incumbent Senator Brett McCready. Hafaday.
Hafaday, how are you?
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, I'm happy that to be sharing some great food and some great coffee with you.
Yes.
How's the election going so far?
Oh, the election is fine. I really don't think about the election much. I just go to work every day and try and do my best to make Guam a better place. And, the election will take care of itself, win or lose. I feel that I've done my best, and I've appreciated the support of all the community, and just keep working. That's all I do.
I mean, you had to put at least the thought into it to run for re-election. So tell me about the process and what went through your mind before you decided to, seek another term.
Well, the process was pretty simple. You know what you're getting into. You know the work that it takes to be successful. And so the thought process is, do you want to do it or do you not want to do it? I mean, it's black and white, it's not gray. And I decided that I would want to do it for another 2 terms or 2 years. And that's where we are here today. And, you just work every day. And that's all you have to do. And you leave it up to the people. It's their government, it's their seat. I think the seat is more important than the person who occupies the seat. And it's the people's job, it's their seat. So it's up to them to make that decision. And I'm totally fine with that, and I appreciate that.
The people, the electorate, have been pretty vocal this term, and chief among them really has been on the issue of pay raises, senatorial raises for other elected officials. I know that there has been so much that has occurred between the end of the 2014 election until now. Give us your thoughts on your position on pay raises, because I believe you support some but not all.
One good thing about this job is your record speaks for itself, and your record is your vote. And so if you look back on my record, I am totally against senators giving themselves a raise. It's on the record. It's my vote. It's what I have done. I've done it in bill form. I've done it in numerous times. I've done it in amendment form numerous times. I think 6 or 7 times total. What I have voted for was other people in the government and the Hay study that was implemented to get their pay adjustment. And so I won't waver on that. That is something that I did from the beginning, and I voted not for the senators, but I voted for the other individuals who deserve that adjustment. And I'll keep, I won't vacillate on my vote. I will keep voting the way I feel is right. You're not going to be able to please everybody 100% of the time. And these are just one of the times that I feel strong that the people who I voted for to get that adjustment, I'll keep voting in that affirmative. And I think the people who should not get the raise, which is the senators, I will keep fighting against that. And that's my stance.
So I guess the commitment is pretty clear. If there's a future bill just for the senators, you'll vote to repeal it?
I would even introduce it like I have. That's not a problem. But any future bills that have the mayors, the vice mayors, the cabinet members, so forth and so on, I will be voting against it.
And that was the most recent, override vote included other raises in it, right?
Sure.
Okay. If there was, give us a thought on the potential of voters repealing raises. Are you in favor of something like that?
This is the people. We all have to remember, as elected officials, this is the people's government. It's their office. It's democracy. If it does go in a referendum, that is up to the people. It's up to the individuals to make that decision. There is a cost associated with having referendums, and I think that cost may exceed what we're trying to accomplish here. But if it's the will of the body for the people to make that decision, then I have to respect it, and I will respect it.
Another big topic as far as votes,
Sure.
medicinal marijuana. It was voted in to be enacted by the people in the 2014 election.
Sure.
What is your stance on medicinal marijuana?
Well, first and foremost, I've always been an advocate of implementing medical marijuana for the people that need it. The onus now is on the legislature to come up with the final enactment of the rules and regulations. It's something that I believe deserves to get as close to perfect as possible, because we only have one shot at this, and we have to make sure we do it correctly. And other than that, I know we're back at the drawing board. The people have spoken, and now it's time for the legislature to make good on what the people had voted for.
I agree with you. This is something that we really have to get as close to right as we can.
Perfect.
If you were to have 3 things on a must-include list for this medicinal marijuana program, what would they be?
Well, I think the first thing would be we have to take the recommendations from the medical field, whether it's on Guam or whether it's from people who have been involved in this kind of industry before. We have to be open to recommendations. We have to make sure that we give this now medicine to the people who really need it. And we have to police it and make sure it's efficient and effective and it works. And like I said earlier, I'm always going to go back to, we have to get this as close to perfect as possible, because we don't have a second chance at this. And so I think it's very important and imperative that we work together with collaboration, common sense, respect and responsibility, and come up with a good plan that will take us into future generations to people that need this.
The CNMI is sort of in a position where they think that their chain of islands is too small to have a sustainable medicinal program. Some representatives are thinking in order for it to work for the patients, that they would have to sort of cast the net wider and put in an adult use or recreational program. Have you formulated an opinion on whether or not you think that Guam is big enough, or do we have to consider something that the CNMI is thinking about and making it sustainable?
I believe we have to take one issue at a time. And when it comes to this issue, which is a infancy stepping issue that we have, and we're taking baby steps here, we can't think of recreational use when we have the more important use, which is medical use for the people who really need it and for the people that are in pain. And so, no, I have not really formed an opinion on the recreational use. We have to concentrate on the medical use.
Which is what the people voted on.
Which is what the people voted on.
Okay. 2 other big issues that always pop up every election: education and healthcare. As far as public schools go, leading into a possible next term, lessons learned, ideas maybe to help improve the public school system?
Well, I think when you talk about schools in general, just education, we as leaders have to make sure that our kids have the safest and the most effective, efficient learning environment, infrastructure. We have to make sure that is done. We have to tackle bullying. You know, every kid deserves a chance for him or herself to learn, to inspire others to learn, to get a higher education and come back and be a successful participant to this community. And I think there's a number of things that we can do, but I think the safe environment, the infrastructure, and bullying, to make sure that these kids go to school and they're not afraid to go to school, and they embrace school and they learn and they become successful. I think we as leaders have to ensure that they have all the opportunities to be successful in school. Because I'd much rather send people to UOG than DOC.
Reports are showing, projecting yet another deficit at the Guam Memorial Hospital. I know that this is a loaded question, but what are we going to do about GMH?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think pointing the finger at any specific person at GMH would be the key to solving the problem. We have expended almost $150 million, and we have received in reimbursements for the compact impact of, I think, nearly $15 million. So if we're going to point fingers, it should go across the pond to Washington, D.C., and that's where the problem lies. I think we need to make sure that we either get reimbursed for our compact impact monies. I mean, if you add it up for over the years, we have to be close to $600-700 million in reimbursements. I mean, each year you get about $150 million, but you only get reimbursed 15. Mm-hmm. So there's a deficit right there. So I think it's a deep issue and it's a concerning issue, but we cannot stop ensuring that GMH doesn't move forward. We can stop ensuring that the vendors don't get paid. We have to keep fighting for GMH, not just on election year. We have to fight for them all year round, 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years, and we have to make sure that they're sustainable because people get sick every day and we can't turn them away.
Running low on time, so a couple of short answers.
Sure.
Direct questions.
Yes or no?
Sure.
Okay.
Short explanation. Sure. Do you support what the governor is doing, removing convicts that come from compact states?
I support it 100%, and if I can do anything to assist him, I will do.
Do you agree with the Attorney General that maybe what he's doing goes beyond his organic authority?
I think we need to work together in every aspect of what the governor is trying to do to ensure he's successful. As he has said, he is continuing to do his job to keep the community safe, and I think we need to work with him.
Something that's popped up but hasn't really come to fruition, a planned, more like promised really, increase in the minimum wage to $10.10 by 2018. Is that something you support?
Well, when you talk about minimum wage, I think about fixed income. I think about the retirees. I think about the veterans who are disabled, who have been disabled. I think about Social Security recipients. People on welfare. The cost keeps going up, but they're not adjusted for inflation. So I think we need to have data-proven numbers that prove to us that, one, we can handle a $10.15 minimum wage increase, and two, that the people that we're thinking we're helping, we're not actually hurting. And so my answer would be we need a lot more data.
And last, I know that you're already got out the stump speech, so maybe a quick look to the camera about why people should consider you in the November vote.
Oh, thank you very much, Phil. I would like to be considered for another 2 years of being a senator. One, I'm not a great politician. I'm probably the worst politician that there is running for election. I haven't embraced the funerals. I don't walk into a room and shake everyone's hand. What I do is I go to work every day. I lead my staff, and we have the most bills in 4 years in our minority. Most crime bills introduced, most crime bills passed, and most crime bills signed into law. I have the smallest staff of 2, and we have the second lowest amount of money we spent in the legislature. So I'm very proud of that record, and win or lose, the people of Guam have been fantastic, and I loved serving them. And I'll continue to serve as best as I can.
Senator Brett McCready, thanks for the time. We'll be back with incumbent Senator Narissa Underwood. Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates. Phil Guerrero here at the Mika Lobby Lounge in the Leo Palace Resort. And now I'm joined by incumbent Democrat Senator Narissa Underwood. Half a day, ma'am.
Half a day, Phil.
So let's get into it. This is your first term?
This is my first term. I'm freshman.
And so what was the decision that went into, let me go for a second term?
Well, actually, it's unfinished business. I had run for the legislature because I wanted to serve the community. I was in retirement, and based on my life experience as an immigrant, a single parent, having gone through some tough times because of the decisions I had made, and was able to succeed to becoming a superintendent, I wanted to be able to provide the same type of opportunities for our community members. So I believe that I still have quite a bit to do. I had accomplished major legislation that went in line to support providing equal opportunity and fair treatment to our community members, and so I want to continue that.
There have been major issues that I think have followed this legislature really since the day after the election, chief
Yes.
among them the senatorial pay raises.
That's right.
I think that your record has been one of the clearer ones, but just for the benefit of our audience, where do you stand on senatorial pay raises in particular and other elected pay raises if you do differ, have a difference of opinion between the two?
Well, when I came in, I clearly was against the process by which it was given to the elected officials and also the appointed officials. I felt that it was lame duck legislation, and a decision like that really should have waited. I also was very disappointed that we have made every effort, a lot of efforts, to try to repeal the pay raises, and those had failed. So what I tried to do was to actually go another route in which I introduced legislation to allow and authorize the senators to voluntarily reduce their pay. Now, the reason why I concentrated on the legislature is because I believe that if we are going to make any changes, it should start with us. So I tried to introduce that legislation. Unfortunately, my colleagues, with the exception of two individuals, Senator Frank Uggan and Senator Dennis Rodriguez, have voted to send it to the inactive file. So I didn't even have a chance to work with them on the floor to push that through. But I'm very firm the fact that given our limited resources here in Guam and the financial crisis that we are experiencing, that we have to do everything we can, individually and collectively as leaders, to address the shortfalls.
Your bill, for lack of a better word, being blocked, really I think is one of the stronger examples of multiple failed efforts that you've been a part of to repeal these raises. What is your confidence that this can be solved in the legislature, and what are your thoughts on spending resources to have a referendum take care of this issue?
Well, you know, I think that I still have faith in the legislature and even the executive branch. I believe that with the election coming up, if there are new senators who will be voted in, that this actually could be taken care of. But it's also important to note that while we are concentrating on the pay raises, this is not the only issue. We individually, as leaders, really should make every effort within our respective offices to cut our spending. So one of the legislation that I had introduced and was passed through the budget law was for my lapsed funds, or those funds I don't use in the fiscal year, to be authorized, for me to be authorized to send it to the Department of Education so DOE can use it. Now, at the end of this fiscal year, I believe I can send over between $50,000 and $60,000. That may be a drop in the bucket, but it is, again, if we, each of us within the legislature would just do the same thing, that then collectively we can speak to our constituents that we are willing to cut our spending, contain our costs, and then try to use that for the services.
Another issue that has followed this legislature since the 2014 election was birthed from a voter initiative, the medicinal marijuana program. I think it's sort of given that the mandate is to create one. And so rather than asking, you know, what your stance is, I think what the more important thing to ask is, if we were to do this right, which I think everyone wants to do, what provisions, maybe 3, would you want to ensure are a part of the rules and regs to make sure that they're done right in your eyes?
Well, first of all, we have to go back to why we passed this in the first place. It has to be patient-centered. So the access provided to our patients should be easy enough, but with accountability. So it should be patient-centered. We should make sure that there is safety, provided the patient is safe in in utilizing that, and also that there is public safety, because there could be abuse. I believe that those are the three major areas. Now, how do we then operationalize that? I would like to leave that to the professionals who are writing. But at this point, we should make it easy enough for the patients to use it, to use medicinal marijuana.
Okay. You mentioned former superintendent of education. You were given a big task of chairing the Committee on Education in your first term. Rightfully so, I would say. But if you do get a second term, even though you have introduced meaningful bills that have done a lot of great things for the Department of Education, what further improvements would you like to push through the legislature?
You know, the biggest thing that we need to address is the increased funding for our educational institutions and the timely release of the funds. Right now, the way the Department of Education, Guam Community College, and University of Guam are treated is this way. It's like they have a contract with a company, and they are told that they're going to get a certain salary every 2 weeks. But yet, when it comes time to payday, they're only given a portion of it. So they're left with having to make ends meet, just like a family. Okay, do we pay the power first? Do we pay, get food, and so on? And we should stop that. There has to be a way by which, at the very least, give the educational institutions the timely releases of the cash. And we also should increase the funding. The level of funding that's provided to them. So often, every year, we talk about the next generation. We talk about the fact that we have to ensure that we empower our younger generation. But then when it comes time to August, when we are actually doing the budget, budget goes to different projects and so on, and then education is not even given the amount that they are asking for. So funding is a big issue. I believe that they are on the road to providing excellent educational services to our students, building the professional population who can then go back and then go into the community and contribute to society. But at this point, they are not being supported financially.
You mentioned one of the things you ran on was that you came to Guam from somewhere else and made it your home. There is a bit of new policy that is sort of testing our stance on immigrants, and that is what Governor Calvo is doing to remove convicts from compact states. Do you support his program as he's implementing it?
Well, I'm really concerned because our Attorney General had already raised questions about the legality of what is being done. As public administrators, you know what? Our first responsibility is to implement the law. And so if there are questions about the legality of that action, that has to be addressed first. But as an immigrant, I know that I had been welcomed here, but it was also my responsibility to ensure that I followed the law. So for those who are here and they're not following the law, then we need to ensure that there's accountability for their actions. Now, how do I feel about them being, their sentences being commuted and then for them to then be sent back? Well, what are we actually doing? We are shipping them back to their home country, and are we then subjecting the children, their population, without any real conversation with the government from which they came? So I believe that there has to be, the legal issue has to be resolved, but our leaders need to start talking with the leaders of those countries so that there's a smooth transition.
We're wrapping up here, Senator Underwood, so I think the last topic I'll ask you about is minimum wage. The current proposal in the legislature right now is to raise it to $10.10 by 2018. Do you support that measure?
I certainly support that because Phil, I was in public assistance for a long time when I was raising my 3 children. And so at that time I was earning minimum wage, I think $3.25 an hour. And so any increase in pay, we actually would pay it right back. We would spend it. It goes right back into the economy. And so I really am for that. I'm for equal treatment. equal opportunity, and the more that we can lift up those members of our community who are at the bottom, lower socioeconomic status, that we can help them up, I think the better that we would be as a community.
It's stump speech time, Senator. So obviously we're here to let people know why you should vote, why they should vote for you in the November general. Go ahead and look into the camera.
Well, you know, this is really a humbling experience, but I really would like to serve the community again for another 2 years. And that is because I believe that there's still a lot that we can do for our students, for our community as a whole. I believe that equal opportunity and fair treatment are the keys to success. And I also believe that we have to be committed and be courageous to stand for those things that I know would just make the lives of our people easier and better. So I please ask you to vote for me, humbly ask you to vote for me.
Thank you for the time, Senator. And this has been yet another edition of Coffee with a Candidate. Stay tuned every Thursday to the stations of the Sorensen Media Group for more from our candidates running for office this November. I'm Philly Guerrero. Thank you so much to the Leo Palace Resort and the Amica Lobby Lounge for hosting us today. We'll see you next time.